welcome to the Golf Report podcast. Today I'm joined by Lauren Thibodeau, who's from New Hampshire and played college golf at University of Louisville. Lauren is now, a player development rep intern and data analyst intern for Mizuno USA in Georgia. Lauren, thank you for joining me. Great to chat with a fellow New England golfer. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Gavin.
Good.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, so just tell me, what's it like, working for Mizuno? Tell me about, how are things going in, Georgia?
Yes, it's been great. It's been such a great opportunity to get to work with Mizuno. Like, it was my first job out of college. And them being able to give me such a position where I can kind of be very flexible to help with that player development side and going to some junior and high level amateur events on behalf of Mizuno, but then also helping with like data analysis within the business department and also been kind of helping with some of the other sports too. So it's been great.
Nice. So you grew up in Hampstead, New Hampshire. Obviously, New Hampshire, not a hotbed for, as I know, not a hotbed for golf like, the South. You probably only get golf maybe from, if you're lucky, mid-April, end of April through, end of October, maybe a little bit in November. But, just tell me about growing up in New Hampshire, and how you got started, in the game of golf.
Yeah, so I played a lot of other sports growing up, kind of like soccer, was big skier actually, also not competitively, but and then my mom's friend said I should get into golf, and once she always was like, no, never mind. And then once I liked mini golf in a camp, they're like, maybe you should get her into lessons and try. So I started at age 6 and I loved it ever since the first lesson. Yes, definitely hard in New Hampshire with the weather and sorts, but I think it was really good for me to have like an off season and let me focus kind of more on school and other things and not have my life be revolving around golf at such a young age. But I absolutely loved it and definitely glad I am proud to be grown up in New Hampshire and around that New Hampshire golf.
So yeah, what are some early golfing memories, you have or that you remember, just growing up, playing golf in New Hampshire?
Yeah, so one thing that we would do in the winter months is go to these like indoor driving ranges. So it would be like heaters and you would hit kind of out into the snow. Definitely have some good memories hitting some pretty beat up golf balls and just kind of goofing around, but also um getting in like the fundamentals work during the off season. Definitely a lot of times in my front yard hitting out of the snow also. It's a lot of good positive memories. But and also yeah, also playing in tough conditions. And we would sometimes have tournaments in March and it would be about 30 or 40 degrees with usually some wind and some rain or whatever elements. So definitely helped me, I think, with my golf career moving forward because I wasn't afraid of whatever weather was coming our way. I was gonna play anyway.
Nice. So just tell me about, growing up playing golf in New England, like what tournaments would you play in? And then also let's talk about the winter. So, what would you do, golf related during the winter? Would you ever get to go to the South? Or would you mostly just stay in New Hampshire, doing, indoor, golf stuff?
Yeah, so I did a lot of like some New Hampshire junior tour like growing up. That's obviously grown a lot more since I was there, but did a lot of New
Mhm.
England PGA and then also the biggest tour for me was the Challenge Cup tour, which they're based out of Rhode Island, but they would have events like a couple events in Maine, one in New Hampshire, like Massachusetts, Connecticut. And you got to really compete on courses that were in lengths that were similar to college golf. So it was really good prep. Basically the best players in New England. And then, oh yes, I've traveled a lot down to Florida in the winter months because my grandparents lived down there. So
Okay.
I would just fly by myself even at like 9 or 10 years old down there. And I had a blast and loved it. And it was really good just meeting people from all over the country.
Nice.
Um, really just through my whole junior golf career. That was the case even before I went to college. And then I feel like once I was in college, it was more international players and stuff, which was really cool.
Nice. Yeah, so during the summer, would you travel around, would you travel around, all of New England, to play golf?
Yeah, yeah, I've definitely played in all the states multiple times. Yeah, I mean most of it was Massachusetts and like Rhode Island, Connecticut, but yes, it was mostly, I mean, if we had less than an hour drive to a tournament, that would be rare. Even the ones in New Hampshire. Like the Challenge Cup Tour, the closest one was almost a 2 hour drive just because there was no roads to get there. It's
Mhm.
definitely a England type thing. So yeah, it definitely made it hard on my parents, but we loved it, appreciated all their help to make my golf dreams come true, you know.
Nice. So obviously you're, a very good player and you were good even, very young. You won the New Hampshire Girls Junior State Golf Championship, at 11 years old, which is pretty incredible. So just tell me, if you remember, tell me if you remember anything about, that state championship, and just what did it mean to you to be the youngest winner, of the New Hampshire, Junior State Championship at 11 years old?
Yeah, so it's definitely a little bit of a story behind that one. I had played that event twice before and done really well, but obviously it was like different tees and stuff like that. And this was the first year I was playing in the 18 hole division.
Okay.
And we had kind of read in the rules, like, oh, I guess, because there's like a junior and a senior level, that like any of the lowest score in either of those divisions can win the whole thing. So my parents had told me that, and I was very much like, I'm gonna win like this whole thing. And they're like, I think they're a little bit worried that I was gonna go and get really and like lose a lot of my confidence because these other girls were going to beat me and because they're a lot older. But I was just determined and had my lowest round ever at that point, 77, and won by 2 strokes over a 17-year-old who was a little bit upset about that. But it definitely was a great place, and just gave me a lot of confidence kind of moving forward in my junior career. So definitely that whole tournament in general, every year I came back because it was like, oh, now I want to win twice. And, it was kind of all these records kind of adding up, and no one had won it 3 times. And then um, after a few other times, it was like, okay, I also want to like break the course record. So I kind of was pushing myself and then trying to beat the course. And so yeah, lots of good memories and um, definitely for sure.
So you actually won that championship 7 years in a row. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess 11 to 18. So apparently you didn't lose that championship, once. Which is pretty incredible, undefeated in girls junior state championship. So just tell me about that. What was it like to win, the girls junior state championship in New Hampshire, 7 years in a row?
Yeah, it was it meant a lot to me because I know some of those years I just went out and just and won it, and I shot
Mm.
66 one of the years. So
Okay.
that example, like everyone was like, okay, we're not gonna beat her, it's her day. But there was a few in there that it was only a couple strokes. Um and yeah, it was tough some of the years. Sometimes I had some like minor injuries, things like that, but kind of at the end of the day, I found a way to get it done. And um, yeah, definitely glad for me that it was at the same course every year also. And since then, now they've moved it, so it's kind of sad for that historic point of view. But yeah, and at least it's a 2 day event now also, which is really good for them in rankings, things like that. But yeah, I definitely hope I helped out moving the New Hampshire junior golf kind of world forward up there because yeah, for sure. When I was there wasn't a whole ton of players. So now it seems like they're getting a lot more competitive, which is happy to see.
Nice. You had success throughout your career in New Hampshire. Even in high school, you had success. You attended Pinkerton Academy. So tell me about Pinkerton Academy because I think I've heard that that's a very good school. So tell me about that. How was your time at Pinkerton Academy? And what was it like to win four state, high school championships?
Yeah, it was great. It was a great school academically, really prepared me for college because it kind of is it's pretty big.
Mm.
It's kind of almost like a little mini college, about 1,000 or so per class, which is for New England, that's pretty big.
Mhm.
And but athletically they were always really good. And playing with the boys on the team. So that was definitely a little bit of a different dynamic, but I learned a lot. And yeah, definitely glad I got to play high school golf because there's a lot of people I played with in the junior golf world that decided just to not play on their high school team. But I was just glad to kind of represent my school um and help them kind of.
Nice. You also got to play in a few USGA championships growing up, US Women's Amateur, US Girls Junior, and US Women's State Team Championship. So just tell me, what's it like to, qualify and play in a USGA championship growing up?
Yeah, so qualifying it's hard. It's not as easy as you would think is the first part. I was glad, well, the state team was a lot of fun. Played that when I was 13, went to Ohio and all that. And again, it was just awesome to be playing and representing our state and playing with other women from New Hampshire. And then yes, the women's amateur was the first USGA or other event that I had played in. And I almost didn't playing it because I was like, oh, I was only 16. I'm like, I'm not good enough. And it's all that negative, negative self-talk thinking is really, difficult. And I wanted to play it just so college coaches could see that I was playing against these other college golfers. And then I went out and shot one under and was the co-medalist. So kind of shocked all of us. And but I was just so happy to get to play in it. And once I was there, that's when I kind of realized this is like the big time type thing. That was I almost made the cut too. I mean, you can almost say almost, but I was just such great takeaways from that event moving forward. And then the girls junior I qualified for the year after. And I had gone through many years where I was only a few strokes off, made playoffs for spots and missed it. And then I just felt like it was kind of one of those feelings like this is my day, this is my golf course, dealt with some weather delays. And then was in a playoff again, and lost actually. So I was first alternate, and but there were some rumblings. Some of the officials were like, "Hey, we haven't had an alternate be called from New England in a while, because it's kind of like a some weird system they do with the USGA to figure out who's next if like an exempt player drops out." And so we are like, you never know. And so the week before I got the call that I was in, and that was pretty cool. Just like, oh, and now we're going to St. Louis. And that was such a great event. Didn't play the greatest, but really doesn't matter. And something like that, it was such a great experience and playing against the best juniors and just to say that I did, get to qualify for it was big.
Nice. Well, congrats on all your success, Lauren, growing up in New Hampshire, and yeah, very happy for you as a fellow New England golfer. So that's awesome. So after your successful, career growing up in New Hampshire, you then went on to play college golf at, Louisville. So what drew you to Louisville and, how impactful was your decision to, attend and play college golf at Louisville?
Yeah, I had a bunch of other choices too, but it really Louisville was my number one school at the end of the day. Really liked the facilities, really liked the coaches and the players, the little bit I had interacted with them before committing. Um, and just also the atmosphere of the university around athletics because Louisville is a big sports town, but like they don't have any professional sports there. I mean, now they've changed that there's a few like, soccer teams and things like that, but they're really behind obviously the horse racing and then their college basketball and athletic programs. So it was cool to be a part of that. Because you would go around with your Cardinals gear and people would say go cards, things like that. I really liked the atmosphere around it, and yes, definitely was the right decision at the end of the day. But most of my friends from New Hampshire were like, Kentucky, you're going to Kentucky? And I'm like, well, it's not like country horses and all this stuff. It's like the city. So it's hard for them to kind of understand that part of it. But and yeah, if you had told me where Louisville was before or asked me about Louisville, I wouldn't have known where it was before starting my recruitment, stuff like that. So I was definitely glad I made the decision to go though.
Well, my only knowledge about, Louisville and Kentucky is that Justin Thomas is from Louisville, and let's see, I don't know if you were in school, but Lamar Jackson went to Louisville.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those two, yeah, Justin Thomas helped a lot for the
Okay.
city, and then Lamar was there my freshman year.
Okay.
But Heisman, I think either around when I committed or right after, or it was around that same time frame. The football program had been doing well when I was near the end of my recruiting process. So that was cool to see that. And um, yeah, he's done a lot for the university and athletic programs for
Yeah.
sure.
And I have to ask, is there a rivalry between Louisville and Kentucky, or mutual respect between you both?
Yeah, it ebbs and flows a little bit, but overall, definitely a rivalry. Definitely glad that we got to play a few times in head-to-head match play matches against them. It's always fun, Sometimes you cross the line a little bit with comments,
Mhm.
but overall, it's all for the fun in golf and when we played other tournaments with them, um, we're all know each other pretty well too, but it's the end of the day we're rooting for the Cards, and it's always cool to have a rivalry. I mean, I was a big Red Sox fan growing up, so it was always, boo Yankees type thing. But I feel like
Yeah.
those are the best out of both sides, so it's really cool to be a part of.
Nice. Yeah, well, as you can see, well, I grew up in Arizona, so I like Arizona and New York, but as you can tell, I'm a New York fan from my hat, and I just went to the game last night, so that's
Oh
why.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Not a Yankees fan, we're good.
Oh, I am a Yankees fan.
That's okay.
Big fan. But yeah, final question about your time at Louisville. Just recap your time at Louisville, and I also want to touch on, your academic achievements at Louisville as well. So you were in ACC Academic Honor Roll, and you won multiple all academic awards. So, just recap your time at Louisville, how special it was, and then just, quickly touch on, your academic achievements.
Yeah, personally it was I kind of had changed a lot of things of what I really wanted to do with my career kind of once I entered Louisville. I was kind of set on like I'm gonna do math and all this other stuff, but then I changed to economics. So it was a lot of kind of changing things, but economics for me it came really easily. So the classroom stuff, surprisingly, it was the grades were easy and also to be able to practice on top of that. But for the average college golfer, I mean, it's difficult. And I definitely had times myself where it's like, how am I going to get all this done? A lot of time management skills. So yeah, I'm very proud of all the work that I put into my academics and my golf game kind of during the 5 year stretch I was at Louisville. And those awards are definitely, it means a lot to me because it's not easy at all to keep up your grades while also competing at the highest level. So, and yeah, it's just definitely glad that I played college golf, and this is such a great opportunity.
Yeah, just quickly touch on it. You got your bachelor's in economics, mathematics, and statistics. And then also tell me, did you always think you wanted to get, you got your graduate certificate in data science. So did you always think, you wanted to get a, graduate degree or certificate, or did that just end up, happening? Tell me about, getting your, graduate certificate in data science.
Yeah, so I not originally when I, especially not when I entered college, I think a lot of the data stuff was still on the newer side. Once I was taking a lot of the economics courses, it's definitely a lot of data driven. And then taking one course in particular, kind of made me realize this is really cool how it incorporates a lot of my math and stats background, the economic kind of critical reasoning. But then I kind of needed this other piece too. So I decided to either, well, I was on the fence actually. There was a data science, and then there was also it was business analytics or something. There was a similar program, but decided on the data science one. Definitely glad I did because it was just a 1 year program just to get the certificate that I had, done that work. And that definitely learned a lot more than I expected, and it really helped me moving forward with the job at Mizuno.
Okay. So yeah, after, during your time at Louisville, you've gone through, some health issues, it's very difficult to, go through. But you throw you showed a lot of, perseverance and, a very strong person. So just, tell me about the GI symptoms you experienced in the fall of 2022, that led you to being admitted to the Boston Children's Hospital, and then ultimately you were, diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. So just, tell me about, symptoms you were first experiencing and what led you to, I believe you spent almost 2 months in the hospital. So just tell me about that.
Yeah, so we at Louisville during COVID that fall semester we were in it was like hybrid courses, so we were in person but then virtual. So I was actually in Kentucky away from home when it all kind of started, and at first I thought it was my celiac disease because I also can't have gluten. So I already had some kind of gut things underlying already, and I was like with just how the doctors and things were at that time. Like, I can just wait, like, I'll be back home for Thanksgiving. Like, it's not that bad. But really, that last month, it was just a lot of like, I was on the phone with my mom and I'm like, I have to run to the bathroom right now. Like, it's, it's almost too late, things like that. And then just, I was very fatigued and, but a lot of people would be like, oh, that's just normal or, it, it's pretty crazy with a lot of this medical stuff. But luckily, by the time I got home, I was very like very weak. I was like pale. My 21st birthday actually was on Thanksgiving that year, and I had no appetite. I ate like two pancakes the whole day, nothing else. So that's when we were like, okay, enough's enough. Started to run a fever, certain little things. Um, so my mom brought me to the ER at the beginning of December of 2020, and then basically right away they were like, yeah, you have ulcerative colitis, and I would have had no idea what that was either, and um, definitely had some time to kind of realize what kind of that meant, and all about it's being a chronic illness, things like that. It's definitely hard to hear while you're also in the hospital trying to get treated for it. But I was just glad that again I was at home and I got treatment at Boston Children's. It's one of the best in the world. And then they were having trouble treating it. They'd kind of gone through everything. And then around Christmas, they were like, so you could either get your colon removed or take this like medicine that had a lot of side effects, um, which is not good to hear when you're again 21
Hmm.
and like what is happening. And so I decided to just try like just do the medicine, might as well kind of exhaust all the options. And that's kind of what led to that second part of the hospitalization when I was in medical catatonia, because I did have that adverse side effect to the medication. And they think it was mostly the medication. And, the doctors don't really know what happened, which is always scary, but they think the medicine played a role in it. It's the best way to
Nice.
describe it.
Okay. So you underwent medical catatonia and you also underwent ECT therapy. So just, tell me about undergoing these, two things and, what they caused for you.
Yeah, so for the second, as that's why I kind of like split the hospitalization in two, because like
Mhm.
the first part, I was like, I have a lot of memories of it, but the second part, my memories kind of like hit or miss. A lot of this
Mhm.
stuff was pieced together through what my mom tells me what happened. Um, and it, there was a few days I just don't remember it all, but couldn't like brush my teeth or do like normal things. Very slow speech. It would take me sometimes like 30 minutes or so to even just take medicine. So that was very difficult.
Mhm.
Uh, and they went underwent all these different tests, and they didn't really they kind of had a general idea what it was. That's what they were saying was medical catatonia, but luckily once they realized that the medications they were giving me that were kind of helping me weren't working, they are like, so you have to, we think you should do ECT. When they mentioned it to my mom, it's definitely tough because she's a clinical psychologist, so she learned about this treatment method and saw it be done when she was in graduate school. So it was pretty crazy for her to be having to say
Mhm.
that, oh, yeah, you should just do ECT on my daughter, like, but a lot of it had changed since the original uses for it. And there was one other case where someone had used this before and it was really successful. So, but it was definitely tough. And definitely was a chance we just didn't know what was going to happen, but we knew sitting there wasn't going to be helping us. So
Yeah, well, I definitely can't say I know what you went through, being diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, but I did go under through some GI stuff. 2022, I got H. pylori, which is the bacteria infection in your stomach, but you just take some medication and, get a colonoscopy to make sure it went away and all that. But definitely not as bad as what you went through, but did go undergo some GI stuff in 2022. But glad to see that you went through it and hopefully everything's going well for you now.
thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just glad that the ECT it worked really well
Mhm.
on the brain, and it shocked it kind of back pretty quick to what they expected. So I had those treatments from like end of January through May, and then they just said, kind of keep an eye on me every once in a while, but they think that's kind of all set. But the ulcerative colitis is something that I'll be dealing with kind of forever, unfortunately, but it's under control, which is just awesome. But really the GI stuff in general, it doesn't even matter what you have. It's tough. Like even just when
Mhm.
I had celiac, it was it's tough when you have to be thinking constantly about what you're eating and making sure it's safe. And I think it also is hard. The GI doctors are great, but I think it's hard to kind of articulate your feelings, and a lot of the symptoms kind of can be similar. So it's kind of tough on both sides. But definitely glad I got the care pretty much kind of when I needed it.
Mhm.
They were able to figure out with not too much suffering on on both sides, but definitely it's a journey for sure.
Nice. Well, you're a really incredible person, Lauren, for everything you went through, and yeah, I definitely wish you, you know, best in health and hope everything goes well. You've definitely gone through a lot, and you're definitely very strong for what you've gone through, and I really like your story. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. So, I see the picture behind you. It's probably Louisville. Know how special Louisville is for you. So, just spending all that time, away from Louisville in the hospital, dealing with, everything you went through. How much did it mean to, have the support from your teammates and coaches at Louisville?
Yes, it was a lot. It meant a lot to me.
Mm.
So I get to do this without crying. Yeah, I was contacting them a lot, and a few times when the catatonia stuff, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was calling my teammates at 1 in the morning, so that was pretty funny. Um, but they were great through the whole process of me being in the hospital, and then also out of once I got out of the hospital and not there's still a few more months before I was cleared to play. So it was and then even just coming back, the whole process, they were awesome, and yeah, for sure.
Nice. Yeah, so back to golf. Let's, not talk about any of that stuff anymore. You competed in your first tournament back in May 2021. So just what was it like to, be back playing golf and, compete in your first tournament back in May 2021?
Yeah, it meant a lot, especially there was
Mm.
kind of a lot more behind it too, because it was in Florida at like right where like my grandparents lived, so it was nearby, and for them to be able to see me back to playing again was pretty cool. And I was glad that a lot of my tournaments that summer also they allowed golf carts. So especially the Florida Heat, Pone would be like, why would you want to come back to that tournament,
Yeah.
because a lot so just building back strength and stamina, not as much about the golf swing actually. But yeah, I definitely remember the first green, like just shaking my hands. So like I just hadn't been so just not used to the nerves. It's been so long. But the whole summer in general,
Mhm.
there's a few rounds obviously where I didn't play the greatest, but overall it was beyond what I could have expected.
Nice.
So it was pretty cool. And I think a lot of it was just being grateful kind of for being back to playing again.
So yeah, just given, that you went through, health issues, health scares, just talk about this perspective now that you have, on golf and life, given, everything you've gone through. You've gone through health issues, health scares. So I'm sure just playing in a golf tournament, isn't very scary for you. So just talk about, everything you've gone through, talk about, the perspective that's given you in life.
Yeah, for sure. I think it definitely was like, I miss a putt. It's
Mhm.
not the end of the world. I
Yeah.
have an next hole. It's definitely putting it in that perspective. I think it kind of lightened the pressure kind of on the golf course, and just made me enjoy kind of every moment. Uh, yeah, for sure. Definitely kind of changed my mindset. Also just knowing that, I can play well because, I'm, gone through all this other stuff. I can definitely, make some birdies and stuff like that. So definitely was a game changer for me.
Nice. So now you're a player development rep intern and analyst intern with Mizuno in Georgia, as I mentioned before. So just tell me, how did you end up with Mizuno, and just tell me about your roles, like what you do as a player development rep intern and data analyst intern. So just, tell me about how you ended up with Mizuno, what you do for them, and just, talk about your, roles with, Mizuno.
Yeah, so my coach, my freshman year at Louisville, Courtney Trimble, she started once she finished at Louisville, she started this organization called For Hire, and it's to help like women in golf, like either if they've just finished college or they might be done with LPGA or really kind of any stage in their life get a job within the golf industry. So kind of once she started that, I always was kind of very close to it, and she encouraged us to go to the virtual interviews and other things, and so that's where I met Lauren Smith, who's the head of player development at Mizuno, and just making that connection. And then once the spring rolled around, she was like, "Hey, you still interested?" And I had also been wanting to do kind of more of that data side of things, and so they kind of found a way to kind of mix them together.
Mhm.
And nothing against any other golf manufacturers, but I don't think they would have been able to to blend both those rules together so seamlessly. And um, just because we have a little bit of a smaller office, even though we still work for the whole, the whole United States, and then obviously we're a global company too out of Japan. But it was just such a great role, and to be able to kind of easily talk to the top people in our company is such a great opportunity for sure.
Nice. So I have to ask you because I'm gonna be interviewing Courtney at the end of the month. You had as your college coach, so you had both Courtney and Whitney Young as your college head coaches. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So just quickly, just say some nice things about both of your college coaches. What it was like to be mentored and coached by two great coaches and great women. Just say some nice things about your college coaches, if you would.
So both of them, their resumes are just amazing, like on the
Yeah.
professional and also obviously on the coaching side too.
Mm.
It was just great to kind of tap into that. Courtney could just like see my swing from like 30 yards away and tell me what's wrong. Like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
how can you see that from over there? I don't know how, but she just knew, especially my freshman year coming in. I already had some momentum kind of from that previous summer. But she really instilled a lot of confidence in me. I know she didn't, and I think I surprised both her and Whitney playing so well my freshman year. But once she kind of saw my game, she was like, "Wow, we really need to be playing you," and really saw my potential. So really, can't say enough great things about that. And both of them, just how they coached us through practice and things, really helped kind of on the golf course side. And really was a good preparation for if I decided to play professional golf. They really were kind of there for me in that way. And then obviously off the golf course with coming back for my sophomore year, having just being diagnosed with celiac disease was tough, and they made it work with when we were traveling with restaurants, things like that. But yeah, both Courtney and Whitney are just amazing, and I'm glad I got to have Whitney for all 5 years. She was my assistant my freshman year, and then coached for the other 4 years as my head coach. So it was both of them were amazing, and glad to have had so many coaches that a lot of connections and things and different kind of ways to coach players. So that's cool.
Nice. That's awesome. You had two great coaches, and it's awesome that you had a great relationship with them. So probably made your college experience even better to have great coaches and teammates.
Yes, it
Nice.
does make a difference for sure.
Nice. So I have two more questions I wanted to ask. You now live, about 30 minutes away from Atlanta. Um, so just tell me, how do you like living in Atlanta, growing up in the East, now you live in the South? Tell me about that. And, do you ever go back to, New Hampshire and New England? Do you have any family, in New Hampshire, or do you mostly just stay down there in Georgia nowadays?
Yeah, I still have some family up in New Hampshire, so I travel up there occasionally.
Okay.
So that was fun, even though there hadn't been any snow yet, so it wasn't ideal skiing conditions, but it still was. It's always good to be back there, and definitely feels a little bit weird now being down here in Georgia for a little bit, and then obviously before that Kentucky. But overall, it's definitely I like the culture down here is pretty cool. Just almost everything kind of happens in Atlanta, so you're pretty close to things compared to New Hampshire was always a longer drive. And just the golf atmosphere around here is pretty cool also. Um, and yeah, especially it is funny at work when I mentioned, oh, like, oh, I used to snow tube, and they're like, look at me, like I'm crazy. So some people, it's interesting how there's cultural kind of things in different areas, but I really like the people down here also.
Nice. So finally, do you ever get to compete or, play much golf these days, or are you mostly just busy with, your work these days?
Yeah, definitely not as much golf as before.
Yeah.
Miss I get to just play anytime I wanted. But definitely in a good golf area where there's a lot of courses. So and with kind of Mizuno also hoping to get on to play some other places in the area. and then also looking forward to trying to qualify for the Mid-Am next year, the USGA Mid-Am, and then this summer I'll probably play some Georgia events too, when I have some time off of work. But it's pretty cool, and we have a golf simulator at work, so I can't always go and hit some there. So I enjoy that part of it, and just working in the golf industry is really cool.